All right, welcome back to the waiting room with Dr.SEC. We're going to go back to the Net Talk hotline at this time and be joined by Drew Laing from Saturday Down South. Does a fantastic job on the website. We'll get some information how you can follow him on Twitter and also on Saturday Down South. Welcome to the show, Drew.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Man, it is a busy weekend of college football in the SEC. Finally, there are no Presbyterian-type matchups across the board. Pretty exciting games. And I know you cover a gauntlet of teams for Saturday Down South, and we'll talk about some of those teams. But the one I really want to kind of start with is one that I guess with all the other headliners of Georgia and Alabama and, Georgia and Auburn, Alabama and Mississippi State, with all of these big headliner games, one of the ones that's kind of missing out is that Florida-South Carolina game. And I'm really intrigued by this game because 2 or 3 weeks ago, Will Muschamp was clearly a dead man walking. I mean, this guy had one foot out the door, it seemed. Even though, for Jeremy Foley's credit, he looked supportive on film anytime you've seen him. But everything looked bad. Nobody wanted this guy around. And I'm not sure how many Florida fans still want him around. I think some probably want to maybe ready to take that next step and move on and transition to the next guy. But needless to say, the old ball coach is coming back to Gainesville for this game. And if Will Muschamp can win this game, all of a sudden his job security picks up maybe another notch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, like you said, this guy, Muschamp, he was, kind of a dead man walking. At least that's what we thought. After the loss to Missouri, with the, obviously the crowd was saying to fire him, it looked bad. And, Foley kept to his word. He said he's going to evaluate him over the course of the season. And you know what? It looks like it might be paying off a little bit. I think the big thing, or the big difference is in the quarterback.
Yeah.
Treon Harris has given the Gators a ton of momentum, a lot of new energy on offense. And I think since that quarterback change, you've seen just the Gators as a whole, just a lot more confidence on the field. And it's kind of the team we envisioned, I feel like, before the season. With Treon able to, help out the offense with his dual threat capability. We kind of envisioned Driscoll doing the same thing in Roper's offense, but it's Treon that's getting the job done. And now you look at, looking ahead with South Carolina, Eastern Kentucky, and Florida State for Muschamp. Obviously, Eastern Kentucky should be a win. Of course, with Georgia Southern last year, no guarantees. But South Carolina, if he wins that, he's going to be, I believe, 5-3 in the SEC this season.
Absolutely.
And then if Florida State, obviously, Florida State at the end of the season, you kind of maybe talk about that as a loss right now. It could be close, but just look how talented the Seminoles are. You say that's a loss. That's 7-4 on the season, and before the year, many people believed he had to win at least 7 or 8 games to keep his job, and it looks like he's going to do that. And that's not including a win at the beginning of the season with Idaho. So I think if he wins against South Carolina, I think obviously I just think there's too many aspects in his favor moving forward that where it would be tough for Foley to fire him. With the potential of Treon. With the defense playing really well again, the young playmakers in the secondary. I just think there'd be too much momentum going forward to kind of backtrack and fire Muschamp and then kind of starting all over, seemingly. So, of course, a loss to South Carolina certainly might muddle the picture a little bit for Muschamp. I think if you lost to South Carolina, a win against Florida State would be a necessity. But if you win this weekend, I think you're looking at Muschamp being the head coach in 2015.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think South Carolina, and as long as they're somewhat competitive, at least for the first half against Florida State, where you see some improvement, because I guess the biggest knock on him outside of the record has been the fact that they begin to lose series that they hadn't lost before. I mean, they owned the Georgia series when he got there. They owned the Florida State series for the most part before he got there, and those series have definitely flipped up until the recent Florida win. So maybe he can. Now, I want to get back to Jeff Driscoll just for a moment, because I feel like Jeff Driscoll gets one of the biggest bum raps in the history of the world. I mean, the guy was supposed to be a world beater coming out of high school, but it is a coach's job to help that player grow to the player, that they think he can be. And the problem is for Driscoll, in my opinion, the guy was set up for failure. When you've got a different offensive coordinator every single year, you're changing philosophies every single year. I mean, there was no way, really, I mean, almost impossible this guy was going to grow and develop the way that he might have had he gone somewhere else.
Yeah, no. He was a five-star, #1 quarterback in his class, and he was going to be a perfect fit for Urban Meyer and that kind of offense. But then when Meyer left, Muschamp comes in, wants to run more of a pro style. He gets into the field, on the field early with Brantley being hurt. He himself actually gets hurt his freshman season. I think, his sophomore season, he had success. He didn't do a whole lot, though. I mean, his numbers weren't that great. Obviously, they leaned heavily on the run game and a strong defense. He was not I would say, a big reason for their run in 2012, although he didn't turn the ball over much. And just with the inconsistency with that offensive coordinator and just the different offensive styles, this season was supposed to be his year in the sense that finally spread offense that Driscoll was set for, that was made for his kind of skill set. But I think obviously you have to put some of the blame on the coaches, but at the same time, I think when the ball was given to Driscoll and he was forced to do more than in the past, I think you saw maybe some of Driscoll's true colors come out. I don't think he was nearly as good of a thrower as people thought. I think mentally he was just struggling with reading defenses, and I think you even see that now. I mean, they kind of have him in a quasi Tim Tebow role back when Tim Tebow was a freshman coming in. He ran a couple plays, a couple runs up the middle at the goal line against Vanderbilt. But even when he came in and threw a couple passes, he looks completely lost out there. I think, part of that is the coach's off. Also, I think he just maybe wasn't able to handle the full weight of the responsibility that was given to him at the beginning of the season.
Absolutely. Now, looking at Trayon Harris, I thought the move was good for one reason. You were in a quick decline, so any shot of energy can help. Secondly, I've seen a kind of a trend in the Eastern Division, especially, of teams that needed to kind of go young because as much turnover as we had last year, we were set to have equal turnover this year at the quarterback position. I mean, you look at across the board, Georgia will be breaking in somebody new. South Carolina will be breaking in somebody new. All Alabama, Auburn, possibly Mississippi State, Ole Miss, all these teams breaking in new quarterbacks next year. We see some of the teams kind of on that verge like Tennessee and like Florida and, making that change at quarterback now, maybe getting a head start on the next year. So I thought it was kind of a win-win. But I've got to ask about Trayon Harris. I like what he brings to the team. But this guy, I mean, I look at his build, and I'm not sure he's a guy that's built for an SEC football season.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 5 foot, I believe 5'11", maybe 180 pounds. I mean, he's probably put on some, I know before the season he was around that weight, probably put on some pounds with the training program. But, yeah, I mean, he is certainly not a prototypical quarterback build, if you will. But I think for the Gators, I think Trayon, like you said, it's a shot of life, it's a change. But I just think it's the confidence he has. The coaches always talk about how cool he is under pressure. This is a guy that won back-to-back state titles at I forget the high school in Miami. It was a really large classification high school down South Florida. I believe they were national champions in high school. Last season, this guy's a winner. He knows exactly, he knows how to win. And I think you see that he makes the plays on the field. But, the guy's talented. You saw against Vanderbilt. Yeah. He's got the arm, strength to throw the deep balls. He's got the speed, obviously, much faster than Driscoll. So I think he's going to keep defenses honest. I think that's why you've seen Kelvin Taylor and Matt Jones kind of have some success lately because the field's open up for them so much. But, yeah, he's certainly not the biggest quarterback out there. I think that'll be on the offensive line. He hasn't been under too much pressure in these first 2 games that he started. So, and he's got the speed to get away, but yeah, he doesn't exactly have the kind of build of Tim Tebow who could take so many hits in the course of a season. So, he's only playing half the season this year. That'll obviously be something to have to watch out for next season if he is assuming that he is the starting quarterback. But I mean, the coaches have liked what they've seen so far. You know, the Florida fan base is certainly re-energized, and the guy just makes plays. So I mean, as long as he keeps doing that, I think he's going to beat him out there.
Absolutely. And this week against South Carolina, they're going against a defense that, to say is not very good, I think is being kind of kind. I mean, this is a really bad defense at this juncture, especially in the fourth quarter. I mean, just the mental collapses they have toward the end of games is really becoming epic at this juncture. But at the same time, I mean, Florida has to come out of this game, in my opinion. I want to get yours on it. Florida has to come out of this game firing on all cylinders, because as bad as the defense is, this South Carolina offense is very good, and they're putting up a lot of points even though they're losing football games. And Florida still, I don't think, is a team that is built to come from behind. How important is a good start for this Florida Gators football team?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, it's huge. You know, what often we talk about too is Florida struggles at home. You know, they have. I think the Swamp has quickly become, over the last few years, one of the most kind of overrated home field advantages. You know, it used to be such a tough place for opponents to play, but recently, you know, probably because of how much the Gators have struggled, but just opponents have come in there and won games. And so you wonder how the crowd's going to be, in the sense that if things do go south at the start, or things are rocky, if they'll, you know, kind of revert back to how they were against Missouri. You know, just how long they'll be patient with this team. But, yeah, South Carolina's offense it gets overshadowed by the defensive struggles and just how disappointing of a year they've had. You know, they're not scoring in the fourth quarter. We saw, like, blowing leads late. But, you know, Dylan Thompson's having on pace for a record-breaking season. He's going to probably break school records in passing yardage and touchdowns for a single season. Mike Davis is obviously he got a slow start of the season because of injuries, but he's come on strong. I mean, he is certainly one of the best backs in the conference. And then you got Brandon Wild behind him, and then Farrell Cooper, who we actually wrote an article about a few weeks ago, just about how he's coming on as South Carolina, their biggest playmaker. And I mean, against Tennessee, he was a beast. So
yeah, absolutely,
a lot of weapons on that offensive side. You know, Florida's got the talent, I think, in the secondary, and guys like Antonio Morrison and Dante Fowler on the defensive line have played well and really affected the backfields of their opponents this season. But yeah, if South Carolina gets off to a strong start, with how much Florida likes to run the ball and you know, control the clock, I think it certainly makes it tougher for a team like Florida to come back in a game like that if they do get down to an early deficit. But a strong start certainly is always great for confidence, and with a young quarterback, you know, having confidence can never be overstated.
Absolutely, and we're once again we're talking to Drew Laing from Saturday Down South. Drew, one of the games that Florida fans are going to have their eyes on is going to be over as Missouri takes on Texas A&M, a game that really has a lot of significance. And here's a team in Missouri. They're kind of like Rodney Dangerfield. They can't get no respect because they come in last year. They win the East their second year in the SEC, a very good football team who could go toe-to-toe. That team could go toe-to-toe with about anybody. And then this year, okay, it possibly, if they went out, could be the worst team to ever represent the East. I'll give you that. But at the same time, they're still winning ball games. Here's a team that's 7-2, and I know they brought the criticisms on themselves because of the loss to Indiana at home. But this Missouri-Texas A&M game, I mean, this one is one I'm very intrigued by because Texas A&M looked like a high school team 2 weeks ago. Then they go in last week to one of the toughest places to play in America and beat one of the top 10 teams in the country, defending SEC champion. And now they got to go against Missouri. I'm really wondering how this game is going to turn out because it's one of those that's really tough to call because Missouri still has a great defensive line that can cause a lot of trouble for that Texas A&M offense. You know, we still haven't seen a whole lot of consistency out of the A&M offense. You know, they're either home run or strikeout, it seems like, this season. Going into this game, what are you looking for with Missouri and Texas A&M?
Well, I think like you mentioned, the biggest thing is Missouri's pass rush.
Yeah.
You know, last week with Texas A&M and Auburn really didn't get to Kyle Allen very much. You know, the pass rush for Auburn was really non-existent. certainly gave Kyle Allen a lot of time to throw in the backfield, and you see what happens there. Puts up nearly 300 yards, 4 touchdowns, SEC Offensive Player of the Week. You look at the 4 games prior to that, where Texas A&M lost 3 in a row, and then they only won by 5 over UL Monroe. Mm-hmm. They really struggled to protect the quarterback. I believe they gave up somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 sacks in those 4 games. And so I think they really do struggle with teams that can pass rush very well. And certainly, if anybody can pass rush very well, it's Missouri with Shane Ray and Marcus Golden and Carol Brantley on the line. So I think that's going to be the area where I'm watching the most, just seeing how the A&M offensive line will try and protect Kyle Allen from guys like Shane Ray and Marcus Golden, because when they don't do that very well, no matter who the quarterback is for Texas A&M, the results haven't been good. So I think that's obviously going to be the premier matchup Saturday night at Kyle Field.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Missouri's going to have a tough Towns playing that night. I think it's a senior night for the Texas A&M Aggies. It's going to be a tough atmosphere for Matty Mock, that's for sure.
Absolutely, and you kind of just get the feeling that this Missouri team is watching them. They're just kind of due a loss. I mean, they beat Florida pretty handily, but the offense was anemic at best. Has been for several weeks, so it picked up a little bit, the last couple of weeks. But even Vanderbilt, not really putting Vanderbilt away, letting Vanderbilt hang around. I mean, they just feel like a team that's ready to lose a game.
Yeah, no. Certainly the offense hasn't been impressive very much. Mock, in recent weeks has turned things around a little bit. He hasn't thrown an interception, which is the biggest thing. But prior to that, he hadn't thrown a touchdown. It took him 4 SEC games to throw a touchdown. The defense has certainly compensated for the offensive deficiencies. That's for sure. Missouri's got one of the best defenses in conference and in conference play. But if Matty Mock can't get things going, it's going to be tough to envision the Tigers coming out with a win just with the environment they're going to be playing in. I know Shane Ray and those guys will make a big difference, but I doubt they can make big enough of a difference to win the game if Matty Mock isn't able to get the passing game going. And don't forget, you can't forget about Texas A&M pass rush because they got Miles Garrett on the line. Certainly going to be pressuring Mock, and with his gunslinger mentality, oftentimes he's scrambling out too soon, making some wild throws. Kind of a high risk, high reward kind of player. So if Mock is turns the ball over a few times, I don't think it's going to be good news for Missouri in terms of them coming out with a win. But it's going to be a shootout. I think it might be getting to a passing fest between Kyle Allen and Matty Mock right at Kyle Field.
Absolutely. And let this serve as a lesson to all SEC fans. Missouri fans wanted James Franklin pulled so bad. And now Matty Mock's the guy, and they're ready to pull him really quickly now. I guess we got to be careful with what we ask for, because sometimes you get it and it's not exactly what you thought it was going to be.
No, that's for sure. And I think that almost happens with every team. They got some young gun quarterback waiting in the wings. Missouri's got Eddie Prince. Matty Mock, he was supposed to obviously have done better than he has done this season. The expectations were pretty high. But you look at last season in the 2 SEC games he started in November, he threw 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. So he's capable of doing that again. It's just he's just been so inconsistent. I think the Missouri offensive line struggled a little early in the season, kind of spooked him a little bit. You saw him escaping the pocket too soon. Really trying to do a lot on his own, making big plays almost every throw, and it wasn't working out. And I think if he just calms down, trusts his offensive line more, I think you'd see a much more efficient Matty Mock.
Yeah, absolutely. And kudos to Bud Sasser, who's done a good job this year. But DGB didn't help the case any by getting thrown out of school before the season started. Hey, let's move down to another guy that's been thrown out of a school, and he's returning back to that school this weekend. Nick Marshall, the quarterback at Auburn, heading back to the University of Georgia. And this one, I'm telling you, I think I've got more intrigue on this one than all the rest, simply because the return of Todd Gurley, the way this series has begun to pick up in bad blood again, and how the game ended last year. Nick Marshall returning back to Athens. I mean, this game has excitement written all over it.
Oh yeah, I mean a I believe top 15 matchup, top 17 matchup, and you got the Georgia Bulldogs still obviously in the SEC race. If they lose this game, you can pretty much count them out. But with Auburn losing last week, it obviously takes just a slight bit of the luster away. And certainly would have had a little bit more intrigue if Auburn was still top 3 in the nation to, top 10. But nonetheless, I mean, one of the best rivalry games in the conference. Can't get any better a lot of times than Auburn, Georgia. I'm not sure of how this is going to go. You look at the kind of talking about bringing life back to the team, Todd Gurley returning. This is something that's been more than a month. Fans have been waiting for, the team's been waiting for. It's going to be a crazy environment at Sanford Stadium. It's a night game too. I mean, just so many factors kind of going against Auburn. But I think the big thing in this game is going to be the run game for both teams, because Auburn has, it's going to have some trouble obviously stopping Gurley and guys like Nick Chubb and their other running backs. You got to think that Georgia's going to have a big day with those guys back. But then you look at Georgia's run defense, and they've just, they've kind of disappeared these last 2 weeks. They were the second best run defense in the conference going into that Florida game, and they gave up 418 yards. And then they give up, I believe, they gave up 200-some yards against Kentucky. And, they're averaging, around 300 yards a game on the ground giving up on defense. And so you look at Auburn's team with Nick Marshall, Cameron Artis-Payne, Rock Thomas, those guys, and just, they're the SEC's best running offense, and just how relentless they are with their run game. You almost think it's going to be kind of interesting, because I think you're going to see a lot of points scored, but normally in those kind of situations you think passing, passing shootout. But I think it's going to be the ground game, and I think there are a lot of points going to be scored on Saturday, but it's going to be the running backs who take control. And so I think it's going to be a real intriguing matchup, certainly a great one to watch.
Absolutely. And one of the things I'm looking for in this game is you mentioned the defense, the run defense of Georgia. It had been good up until the last couple of weeks, and I'm, they faced some pretty good run defenses up to that point. They hadn't gave up any long runs at all, and all of a sudden Florida starts gashing them, Kentucky starts gashing them. And I'm curious to see, because I wrote an article here recently about Georgia and was looking at some of the things. They put over 4,500 miles worth of round-trip miles over the last 4 games. I mean, it wasn't a road trip where they were going once again to Auburn and Georgia Tech. They went all the way over to Missouri, which is right on the Kansas line almost. Then they come back. They go all the way over to Fayetteville, Arkansas, come back, go over to Jacksonville, come back, and then up to Lexington and come back. So they hadn't played in front of the home crowd in over a month. The crowd's going to be so hyped, and probably get that defense playing a little bit better. But what I'm really questioning is Mike Bobo, what he's going to do, because he's got Todd Gurley back. I mean, you've got to feed the beast the rock. I mean, the best running back in the country. You've got to give him the ball. At the same time, Nick Chubb is playing as good as anybody really out there right now at the running back position. You got Sony Michel, who's coming back, but you slot him out and do some things with him. But at the same time, I mean, you could just run, but you finally got Hudson Mason in a good groove. I mean, he's really playing his best football of the year by far, and you don't want to risk getting him out of that groove. And the secondary of Auburn has been very suspect at best this year, while the run defense has been serviceable. So I'm really curious what Mike Bobo's going to do. I mean, he's got to get the ball, and he's got some. I mean, it's a good problem to have. He's got so many playmakers, but he's got some things he's got to do there to make sure he doesn't lose the momentum of those guys.
Oh yeah, they came out and said Todd Gurley's a starter. He's obviously going to be getting, I think, the majority of the carries, but it's you can't ignore Nick Chubb in the backfield and what he's done in the last 4 weeks. I mean, he's been arguably the best running back in the country.
Yeah.
And I don't think I think people knew he was going to be good, but I didn't think anybody would be thinking he'd be that good. And so it's almost like an embarrassment of riches for Mike Bobo with all the weapons, like you said, they have on the offense. Hudson Mason is certainly he's not a bad quarterback. He's been good, careful with the football. He doesn't turn it over very much. You know, he might not put up big numbers, but, you know, last week against Kentucky, could see career day. He's playing his best football of the season. So you're right. The question is, what do you do for my football? I think you don't try and get too fancy. I think you know what your strengths are, and the strengths are offensive line and running the football. So I think you lean heavily on running the football, and then certainly you're not afraid to change it up with Mason and now with Chris Conley coming on strong the last few weeks, and Malcolm Mitchell back fully healthy, and a guy like Jonathan Rump too, who's 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah.
That certainly can go up and make some plays. So I think you don't try and get away from what you've been good at, which is running the football, because I think if you do that, you might put yourself in a bit of a hole. So I think you lean heavily on Gurley and Chubb and some of the other running backs, and then certainly change up the pace with Custom Mason. And they have the perfect offense, I think, to keep Auburn on their toes. And like you said, yeah, the defense for Auburn hasn't been that great this season. But I just think you got to go back to what your strengths are.
Absolutely. We're talking with Drew Laing from Saturday Down South. Drew, appreciate so much you taking some time being with us. Obviously, they can find information at SaturdayDownSouth.com. But could you inform our listeners where they can find you at on Twitter?
Yeah, no, my Twitter handle is @DLang, @DLangSDS. And that's DLAING SDS. That's where you can find me on Twitter. And, yeah, just looking forward to a great weekend of college football.
Absolutely. Once again, that is DLang SDS. Laing is LAING, so it's DLAING SDS. Drew Laing, Saturday Down South. Appreciate so much of being with us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it. You have a great day.
You too. All right, man. Awesome. I appreciate it. I didn't mean to carry that long, but you're doing a great job. So.
No, I appreciate it. No, it's really enjoyed it. So you said you pre-recorded. I mean, when would it go up?
We air from 6 to 8, and so I will. I've got your email. I'll send you over. I'll also upload it and put it on website as well. And so I'll send you a copy. But yeah, it'll come on tonight probably. Like I said, where do you live at?
I live in Lakeland, Florida, so I'm Eastern time zone.
Okay, yeah, that was Central, but I was trying to think. We don't have any stations right there, but you can go. It'll be on if you go to SECRadioNetwork.com, you can listen to it stream over there. But I'll send you the link where you ain't got to listen to it live.
Okay. And I'm so sorry. What is your actual name?
Peter Flournoy, Flournoy. Yeah, but Peter's my name.
Peter. Yes, sir. Well, I appreciate it, and I'm really, grateful for the opportunity. So
enjoy it, buddy. Hope to get you on a lot more.
Yes, sir.
All right,
yes, sir. I look forward to it. You have a good day.